The Senate's top Democrat says it would be, quote, an insult to our democracy to have our president showing up and getting chummy with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. Well, our next guest has been meeting with Russian officials himself to discuss a number of these hot-button issues. He's back in the States now. Congressman Chris Smith, the Republican from New Jersey, joins us. Great to have you with
Shannon,
us.
thank you very much.
Now, listen, I know that these cyber attacks are things you have been warning about for years. Your own office was targeted more than 10 years ago.
In 2006 and again in 2007, the Chinese hacked my computers. As you know, I work very, very strongly and aggressively on human rights abuses, trying to combat them all over the world, especially in China. And they took our emails. They took all things related. I was working on a bill then called the Global Online Freedom Act because Google, Yahoo, Cisco, and Microsoft were very complicit working with the Chinese on censorship. So I had a big hearing on it, and they invaded my computers. I wasn't the only one. Frank Wolf had it happen to his computers as well. So, you know, this is nothing new. The Pentagon is fending off attacks 24/7. Hacking and attempts at cyber terror against them and trying to glean our secrets from that. So it's something we need to be ever vigilant on. And certainly, as Pompeo said not so long ago, this isn't the first time that the Russians have tried to influence elections. I do think we have to be very aggressive with the Russians and say, you know, not now. We want a full accountability. Shannon, you probably have heard repeatedly people saying, why don't we just extradite the 12? There's no extradition treaty with the Russians. And even if there was, there's no way that Vladimir Putin would put them on a plane, an Aeroflot plane, to be prosecuted. But there is another alternative, and that is to red notice using Interpol the 12 and the others, too, that have been indicted from Russia, red notice them so that anytime they travel anywhere, particularly with one of our allies, these intel officials could be apprehended and then transferred to the United States for full prosecution. So they become, you know, they have to stay in Russia or else. And I think red noticing should be done immediately by the Department of Justice.
Okay, that's a very interesting option. Not a lot of folks know about that. All right, I want to present a couple of things. Senator John McCain, obviously Republican, says this: President Trump must be willing to confront Putin from a position of strength and demonstrate that there will be a serious price to pay for his ongoing aggression towards the United States and democracies around the world. If President Trump is not prepared to hold Putin accountable, the summit in Helsinki should not move forward. The president says he's going. He says he's going to bring it up. He says he's brought it up with him before, and he said it wasn't us. We didn't do it. Where do you go from there?
Well, you know, Shannon, just last week on Saturday, I had led a bilateral meeting with the Russians. I've done that before, but this one was very candid. We had 11 members of the House of Representatives with one senator and 9 members of the Russian Duma. And we pressed hard, especially on, obviously, Crimea, that they leave. That invasion is absolutely illegal and immoral, that they stop what they're doing in Ukraine. 10,000 people have died. 1.5 million have been internally displaced. I raised human trafficking. Russia, I should say, is now seriously backsliding. And I wrote the laws for America and the world, the human trafficking legislation in 2000, to combat human trafficking, and yet they're getting worse, and women are being cruelly exploited. That's an area we could cooperate. So in this meeting with Peter Tolstoy and his 9 members of the Duma, we pressed all of these issues, and we also pressed meddling. He came back and said, well, he denied any government complicity, which I think is absolutely false, as we saw from today's indictments. But he also said if 13 hackers, I don't know why he chose that number, you know, 12 today, can visit this kind of actions on the largest democracy in the world. What happens if we had 26 hackers out of Russia? Clearly, you know, he had some inside information that he did not want to convey to us, but now we know more about that with today's indictments.
We do. Well, I know that you think it's been helpful to meet face-to-face with Russian officials. We will see.
And to be strong.
And
everyone's admonishment to the president to be very strong. I think he'll heed that. He said it today that he'll do it. To look Putin in the eye, raise these important issues, you know, the political killings that are going on. I had a meeting with Boris Nemtsov's daughter, who was killed in 2015 in Berlin, held a side event for her, offered an amendment at a parliamentary assembly. It is terrible what has happened in Russia with this deterioration and, of course, all the aggression and now the hacking of U.S. elections. It's got to stop.
Well, our president is the #1 representative of this country, and hopefully those things are all on the table. Congressman, always great to see you.
Shannon, nice
Come
to be
back
with you.
soon.
Invite me back. I'll be gladly back.